Old beers.
Yeah! Welcome back after about a month. I missed these guys. I've been all over the place. I missed my team, and it's time to get back together on Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ San Marco, here with the money man, Money Nathan.
What's going on, man? Feels good. Getting back together just feels right.
It feels good.
Mm-hmm.
I know our guest backstage, he can get with this. We also have our researcher who's our researcher, Deb, who, Priscilla's just moved to Maryland. These two girls about to get in all kinds of trouble. So ghosts, spirits, cryptids, look out, man, because these girls are coming. And they're also going to be together in October 8th. They're going to be with James Iandoli and J.C. King in New York City for that anomalous business. What's it called, Nathan? Can you even recite that thing?
It's like it's an inquiry into anomalous
experiences. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Our resident experiencer coming all the way from Minnesota, eh? What's going on, Steph?
Oh, you betcha. What's up? I have to say, I'm jealous of Deb and Priscilla getting together. If I could be with you, it would be a trifecta of
triple trouble, man.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
The ghost better look out, baby. Yeah, now.
And, to be among elite intelligentsia would be even greater. So, But yeah, no, I'm great. It's not snowing yet. So, I've only gone through my first year here and I'm bracing for winter.
Yeah,
but it's been very...
When you said elite intelligentsia, I thought you were referring to me. So I just
I was
really confused. But anyway, let's bring on our guest. It's been since December since we last saw this gentleman for the holiday party when he popped in to say hello, and we had him just before that. But now I got a lot more knowledge on his show. And who we're talking about here is the executive producer of Letter 10 Productions. And you know who's got that going down. The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah. Put your hands together for TJ Allard.
Thank you. I love that intro. That was amazing. Thank you.
Can I get an amen for TJ?
Amen. Welcome back.
I could have been at the choir at Nathan's church, man. He was smart. He did his master's when he was in his damn 20s. But, hey, congratulations, everybody. On behalf of Calling All Beings, I'd like to congratulate right now TJ Allard, the executive producer of Skinwalker Ranch, for earning at this ripe age of probably like 40. How old are you, TJ?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Congratulations for earning his master's degree, TJ Allard.
Yes, congrats. It's huge.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yes, I have a master's in data science to go along with everything else I've been doing. So this is it's great. A lot of work.
That is amazing.
Got it done.
Yes.
Congratulations, sir. I'm sure you're resting easy and you smile when you wake up and I don't have to crack a book, man. I only graduated about 2 years ago. This September 20th is 2 years ago, so I know how you feel. And I'm 53. So, excuse me, I'm 55. Nathan, I forgot how old I was. I was 53
You're
when
53 in my book. Yeah.
So.
You get to go to Americans, I heard you singing your Tony earlier. That was great.
Is that good? It feels
Yeah.
I knew what it was. Come on now.
I'm multi-talented, TJ. I have at least one other talent in the world. But anyway, it's an honor to have you back. I did consume all of season 3 season 4, actually, right? Of Skinwalker Ranch. Was that season 4?
You've probably seen 1, 2, and 3 so far because
3.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. Well, I was texting you at the time because I was enjoying it so much, and I'm texting TJ. I saw that, and you're like, yeah, I know, I've seen it all already. But I really enjoyed it, and they got so much data.
Yes.
And this isn't even my first question, but I was wondering if you could just comment on what was it you think that led to them being able to collect. So was it just the interjection of Travis Taylor, or was it something else that you think caused them to be able to collect all that data this season?
No, I think it's the machine is well oiled and moving well right now. I think it takes a couple of seasons to get anything going, and then kind of getting it on. Okay, you developed your format, you have your mission plan, what you're trying to do. Once you understand the tone, structure of the show, then you can start digging in, to the nitty gritty. It's just like anything, right? You're doing this big arc, and now that we know what that is, now you can start breaking it into more pieces and then diving deeper into each one. And we're very, listen, it's super lucky. Nobody gets season 4 anymore in anything. So this is a bona fide hit. It's amazing. It takes, it's one of those stories I say, so I should step back and, say it. I talk to a lot of people, right? That over the years, looking for talent, looking for ideas, looking for shows. And one of the things that I try to get across to people is, this, my career, this is 20 years in the making, the overnight success of 20 years in the making. So, you look like, oh yeah, this just happened, but it took, myself, it took a very long time to get there. And you try to put that out there to people right away when you're kind of introducing like what you're trying to do, what you want to do, what you would like to do with them. And you try to dispel a lot of those myths and rumors, just those things that people think about like television right out of the gate. And so it's a business like any other. And, this is the response we get from the audience. That's, networks like that. Just, hey, it's working, keep it going. So hopefully, this is the beginning of many, so.
Just beyond the star that is the ranch, and I'm gonna pass it to Nathan after this one.
Sure,
but
please.
Beyond the star that is the ranch itself and the goings on there, is there a particular decision that you made that you thought was integral from the production and from the entertainment side that you think was pivotal?
Yeah, and I'm going to say this a couple of times, I'm sure, as we're talking. I've a lot of the stuff I've said before. Some of this I said before, so I know that I'm repeating myself for those who have heard this before. But yeah, so in the beginning of this, so I'm one of the series creators as well as the executive producer, and now I'm a co-executive producer because I'm not involved in day-to-day anymore. It's so the idea of the show itself, the concept. It was very professionally expensive to pitch this kind of topic. And it was, luckily I had, most of my credits prior to this were, just very home renovation stuff, shiny floor productions, Rockettes, like rescue shows, things like that. And so I come from a television background trying to make a show about this topic as opposed to someone interested in the topic that wants to do TV. And they're not at all the same. And people think that they are, but they're not. And so the angle I took at this was that, like, hey, listen, I know stories, I know television, I know a good potential when I see it. And people, luckily, people believed in that. And so I think that approach to this, as opposed to coming at it with this fantastical idea, this fantastical approach, it was very straightforward. Like, we're making TV. The topic doesn't matter what it is. There's a formula for television. And so I think that was the approach. And you could see it now, in season 3, season 4, the guys at Prometheus, but the team at Prometheus, men and women at Prometheus, like they're killing it. Like they're doing such an incredible job with the show. So, kudos to them and just keeping it going. Like they know what's going, they know what they're doing, and you don't want to, mess with the perfection that they have going on. So, but the initial part of it was that TV angle, as opposed to the other angle of like, oh, it's something different. This was a very straightforward TV approach.
Right, Nathan, it's expensive keeping Dragon in those black ball caps and 5'11" tactical pants. That's not cheap, man.
It's not at all. Not at all.
5'11" tactical pants. Like, hey, really? Has he talked about that?
No, this is just me. It's just me.
Okay.
It's just riffing. Well, you kind of alluded to this, that and in some ways I would think that any show right now is a gamble. When you're kind of pitching a show, like you said, not many shows make it to season 4. It's just getting the show past season 1 is often a real big challenge. So it's been a huge success. Congratulations on that. How has this show, I would echo what you said earlier, the show is hitting its stride, but how is the show itself kind of making its mark on other shows that might now be kind of entering the same space? Is there kind of a knock-on effect of Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes, there is. And so I will give you a little inside baseball and stuff. So, talking with networks, there's, I'm sure, well, maybe you're not aware. So Warner Brothers and Discovery merged. So that's Warner Brothers Discovery.
Okay.
I don't even know what they go by.
Discover Brothers.
Discover Brothers. Warner.
Maybe
not.
not.
I like that title though.
That's why we're paying him so much.
Yeah, right. But the Warner Discovery. So the way that it works now, in our last conversation, like they're well aware that they did a show, Blind Frog Ranch, which is a direct ripoff of Skinwalker. And no disrespect, I mean it is right. Like nobody's hiding anything.
Right. Same formula. Yeah.
Same formula, right. But it's also, you can't touch the original, right? The original is always the best. In this case, everything will always be second fiddle to that. If you're looking for a longitudinal exploration of this anomalous topic, Skinwalker is now, the bar, like the gold standard. And with subsequent, maybe there's other avenues that this travels in.
It's like Coke Classic and New Coke. Are we in that situation?
No, I think now it could be. But I think knowing that there's a huge audience here, and now that this is ingrained as the place, or as the gold standard, they could also be doing many others. It's, you have to think of it that way. Like you're building a franchise, the network is really getting behind it now, which again, that doesn't happen anymore. It's very rare. I mean, Pawn Stars was one of the last big ones that really got a network push. And that's still going on. I mean, like 650,000 episodes, it's like in every language, on every continent, forever and ever. So I think that you're going to continue to see more of this, but I wouldn't think anyone else is going to do it as well. And I think that they're just going to keep coming back to us, like the teams here. So to keep doing more.
Nice. If I could ask a follow-up on that too. So last time you were with us, you were talking a lot about kind of how media is changing, and this kind of what we're doing in some ways is a part of this new landscape of how entertainment is working. The audience is becoming a lot more involved in the product, and the lines between audience and product are getting a lot blurrier. So do you see that happening with the sort of the fan base of Skinwalker, and then the kind of spin-off, I'm kind of reading from the lines here, but some of the spin-off products that might be down the line might involve more of that kind of audience participation or directing the content in some ways? Yeah,
I mean, there's I'm not gonna lie, like conversations like that happen, as potential. And so again, through when you talk to so many people over the years, it's no one's a beautiful, unique snowflake. Every idea you have, there's people who are paid to sit in a room and think of that, right? And they have. And it's no knock on anyone's idea. Like if there's something and it's like, okay, well, I have a water bottle here, anything you can do around that water. There are people that they're 24/7. That's what they think of. But yes, I'm seeing, and I said this long ago, and it's unfortunate because I've seen this happen. It's this community in particular. I'm a little, I don't know the right word here. I'm just not. I'm seeing it kind of deteriorate to a point where you're becoming about people as opposed to a topic, and that is like, for lack of a better, it's the kiss of death for a community. Right. So you start to follow people instead of instead of what it was, like the idea. And in this, okay, I should step back and say there's a great example of this, and it started in the Periscope community a few years back, where, and I talked to a lot of the people that are in that community and looking for show ideas there. And some of them explained to me how dangerous what's happening here, how dangerous it is, and how it's resulted in that community when Periscope shut down and they moved to Twitter. During a lot of that period, they become what's like a quote unquote drama community where people start threatening each other. People cross state lines and go after one another. Like people get arrested. They dox people, and that's the kind of toxic stuff that's happening here. And so you're losing the idea of what was bringing the community together. And this is not unique. Again, this has happened. This this happens when people get so close to something and they want to be a part of it.
Mm.
And I understand that. And there's much better ways to be a part of something than chatter online. Like, you can go and do things. And I'm seeing that they're becoming the product. They want to become the product, right? Because you're an expert and you read everything and you've watched every show, and not just but every show around these topics.
Right.
Doesn't make you an expert. It makes you just another fan who wants to be a part of it. Unless you're doing something truly unique, which there's very few that are, but there are some. The fans are becoming the product. And I think, this is kind of what I've said this many times, like over the years, I don't want to see that happen. It's happening. And hopefully there's some, hopefully some that can pull back a little bit. I don't see how to change it or how that happens, but
right.
I would love to see people stop trying to be the product and understand it's
Yes.
your 15 megs of fame goes really quickly these days.
Yes.
Great insight. Yeah, I love that. Deb, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Yeah, I was just having a flash of the real world UFO style when you were saying that. I'm just saying it's a possible show, but
I'd be lying if I said it hasn't been talked about.
Yeah.
Sure.
Again, it's like, okay, if you see a community like this developing, first thing you do is look at every show, any idea that's been pitched that has developed around a community. Okay, and then on that, what's the subculture of that community? Does it become competition? Does it become infighting? Where does it? What is the tent pole, if you will, to structure a show around? Mm-hmm. And it's been. These things all come up. So,
well, I'm ready to throw a question at you. You ready for it?
Of course, that's fine.
Okay, so since the last time we spoke, we found out something very special about Mr. Travis Taylor, that he was part of the UAP task force. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering what your response and reaction when you found that out was. Like, how did you feel about that?
I was super happy. I got to say, I was extremely happy. I understand there was a part of like shock and, almost like, oh, I should have known that. But at the same time, I shouldn't have known that. Nobody should have known that. And I'm glad. And this is, again, this goes back to there are protocols for things. There are secrets for a reason. Not everyone deserves to know everything. And it's unfortunate, but there's reasons why. And you see what's happening. Like as soon as a little piece of information like that gets out, boom, the theories and the nonsense distracts from the actual message. So you lose the signal in all the noise of everyone's feelings and thoughts about it happening. I was super proud of that fact that it happened. I was like, this is amazing. This adds a level of credibility to it. The guy that the United States government, whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. The guy that they go to is the star of our show.
Huge.
That's full stop. Like, that's it. Like, no matter what your thoughts are on who's in power, whatever. No, we are arguably, can you say arguably, right? Well, maybe I guess you can. We are the greatest superpower in the world, right? With, as far as we know, the most advanced space plan or space program. And the guy that those people, when they have questions, kind of lean on, just happens to be a guy out at starting on our show. You can't ask for a better pedigree. So I was very excited about that. And there's a moment of, oh shoot, you feel like, wow, you're left out of this. You're left out of the conversations at times, because at every company and every business that happens, right? You can't be a part of every conversation unless you're the guy at the top, or the person at the top. And so when that happens, you're like, ooh, it's almost that, but that's your ego. That's just a little bit of pride tingle. And you're like, oh, well, you know what? But it's probably for the better. Like I wasn't in a need to know basis. Hey, great. And I'm very excited about it. And I can't wait to see how much, more of that kind of develops and where that goes. But that's great. Thank you. I love that question. I'm very proud of that fact that he's part of it.
I'd go as far as to say you should even put air conditioning in his trailer and maybe even increase the size of that big screen that he has in the bedroom quarters.
Should we only give him the green M&Ms now and take out the red ones? Or what?
Yes. Yes, and I think you should ensure it as quality control and producer. Yes. Anyway, let's pass it over to UAP experiencer stuff.
Hi, TJ. It's great to see you. I've seen you among the Twitter spaces, so finally here we are. And of course, I'll have an experiencer-related question. And I'm just posing this as a question. If it's not like a. Sorry, I don't know why I'm even nervous right now. This is so funny. My apologies. My apologies.
Oh.
So okay, collect. It's just really cool to chat with you, and I appreciate what you guys are doing for our community, and that's probably why I've got the nerves. So here's the question: how would you feel about the idea of conducting an experiencer-related, like a data-driven analysis among experiencers using similar equipment that Eric and Travis use, just to see if there's some sort of way that you can intercept information from actual people? I mean, I've heard that there's these implants that do promote these RF frequencies. I do not know if that is true or not. I would like to see it for myself as a realist. So what would you think about that?
I would love it.
Awesome.
I have been for the last, there's members in the community that I talk to, and I do those Twitter spaces, and just like with this, I am open to hear. I want to hear from everybody I can. I'm not here to pass judgment on anyone. Everyone has their. Who are you to say that what does or doesn't happen to somebody?
Right.
And so when I hear this, I've been working with a couple of people. Well, one in particular that I really think there's something there. There's a there, and I've been pitching this show. It's been over a year. And I mean, there's a few. There's one that I really feel like, and I want to call it out, but at the same time, I don't, because I feel like I don't want to put them on the spot. But if you follow me on Twitter, you see who I interact with. You see who I know in that community, that experiencers community, and I think that's a great idea. I would love to do that. And again, this is aside from Skinwalker. I mean, this may doesn't have to be associated with that. I've thrown that out there. Maybe not where it's going right now. But I think it's its own show. I don't think that needs to piggyback on something else. I think it's enough of a topic to be examined that it can stand on its own. The problem, the problem that we keep running into is distribution. So, and this is where you're seeing, that's why this is where, fingers crossed, that's why this is such a huge success with Skinwalker getting a 4th season. Because the market segmentation with so many outlets for content, you can't get an audience anymore. You go back 10 years, number one show is getting 12, 14 million. We're getting just under 2, a little over 2 on a season finale, and you're number one. Like, so think of that monetarily. It's like, okay, well, what advertiser is going to try to, pay what they did that 10 years ago for, a tenth of the viewers, or not even. So it's getting distribution for a show like that. It's like, okay, where's the audience? And I gotta say this. So I had a recent experience where I had some younger people that I interacted with, like 18, 20 somethings, that were actually fans of the show. And I was kind of shocked, like, okay, where are you watching it? And it's like, oh, my parents watch it. And so they start watching with their parents. So the average age of a cable viewer right now, I want to say it's either 62 or 59. It's like 62-year-old women or 59-year-old women is the average cable viewer. And so that, knowing that, it's like, okay, so you have to appeal to that audience, but there's not a lot of them comparatively, right, that are watching television. Sure. And so that show, like you're talking about, an experiencer show with a scientific approach would be amazing. It's just, who's the audience and how do you reach that audience? And at the end of the day, I make television, right? So it's unfortunately it's a business, but at the same time it is a business, and you have to approach it that way. I think it could survive if it found the right outlet. And I always encourage, that's why I love what you guys were doing. Like, I think this is a great way to do it. Stay away from the drama stuff, focus on the people that are doing things and that are that have contributions, that they're making contributions, and not the cult of personality stuff. Right. You'll find like these are the outlets. And fast forward 5 more years, I think it's something like this that does that show. The prosumer technology is out there, and it's not ridiculously expensive like it once was. You don't need someone with deep pockets like Brandon to provide some of that equipment. It's it's there, and so just approaching it in a real transparent, way would be huge. But I think that's great. I would love to see that happen, and I have been trying to do something like that amongst other projects. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Wonderful. And it's great that you've had this time to actually produce some analytics from the shows that you've already produced. So yeah, I mean, hey, I'm going to continue collecting information from experiencers. So when that time comes, I'll hopefully have some sort of a,
it's a matter of somebody
a decent amount of people. Yeah.
Somebody
It's hard to
becoming the face of it. Like that's what it takes. Like someone like you, like spearheading it and saying, I'm doing this. Like, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
You're not doing it for anything other reason than to be the one that's doing it. And
right.
I think it just takes that one person.
It took some courage to do. Let me tell you, it took a while for me to get on my face on camera. I was really anxious about it, to be honest. And, my family has spoken about it amongst ourselves throughout the years, but it was just something behind the scenes. It was never this. So it's really neat to have three of us that are here that can actually tell what happened. We did come from an aerospace background, so we do have that behind us as well. But yeah, I thank you for that. I'm going to take that as a compliment. So here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
TJ, it took me a long time to get my face on camera too, and for very obvious reasons. Okay.
I don't understand it. I think you look great. I'm very jealous of the sunglasses all the time. I'm like, I could do that in every meeting because then you can't see where you're looking on the screen.
Exactly. Yeah. This is very purposeful. It's not an accident. So this is a rumor, TJ, and this is a rumor that's out there. Is it true that you used elk meat to try to lure Sasquatch onto the ranch to make a walkthrough, just so that he would be on camera? Is there any truth to that rumor?
No.
You didn't do that. Okay.
No, I didn't.
Okay. All right, let me get on to my real question then.
I've heard that. Yeah. No, go ahead, please.
You're not beyond doing that, though. It's fair to say that if you thought you could lure him on camera, you would do it.
I have so many Bigfoot stories I could go into of people that I've talked to that. Amazing.
My God. Nathan turned me on to that Sasquatch Chronicles program on YouTube and podcast. This gentleman he's closing in on 900 episodes of first-person encounters with Sasquatch that absolutely floored me. I didn't even know that this existed.
Yeah, I always go back to just get me one. Just get one.
We got to get him on camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please ask your question though. Please. I don't want to derail you.
No, not at all. It's a great. It's like a whole show we could do on Sasquatch. Fascinating topic, and we actually have a couple shows live. For those of you who out there, we do have 2 guests lined up about Sasquatch. One of them being the former Texas detective turned Bigfoot researcher, Rick Taylor, has agreed to come on. I think we're going to have him November 9th. He had some pretty profound experiences, some of the most profound I've heard. TJ, so I want to get a little bit to some of the meat and potatoes of the show, and particularly the drilling aspect. And I'm thinking that you, as a executive producer, when that was happening in real time, and you're reading the dailies, and you're finding out that they're drilling into the side of the mesa, and and all of a sudden the drill is sort of taking an angle as if there's something blocking it, and it has to go at an angle, and then they're able to pull out those. I guess we would call them. I don't think precious metals, but metals that are not common in compounds that had to have been forged in a certain way.
Materials.
Yeah. What? Say that again.
Out of place materials.
Yes, sir. I want to know what is that one of the most compelling things. What was your reaction when you read the dailies on that one?
I wish that were the case. That it was both of those, that it happened by reading dailies, and also happened to be my most compelling evidence. Like, okay. I got.
What was it then?
I'm going to give myself a trouble. I've seen so many. Listen.
Things he can't tell us.
There's so many things over the last 5 years that were the most compelling that I feel like we'll get there. It's like anything. It's everything's timing. I'm always fascinated when I hear stuff like that. When I read about that, when I know that, like, yeah, you're hitting something. Like everyone's mind goes crazy, but at the same time, you're like, okay, how do you explain it away? without going to the fantastical route, without going to the therefore aliens. That's always a challenge, but there's so much compelling stuff, man. There's just so much compelling evidence that, and I don't ever claim anything. I've never come out and said anything is anything. It's just data, and it is, and like anything, it's like anything on television. It's a product. You're watching. If it wasn't entertaining, if it wasn't suspenseful, if it wasn't like trying to grab your attention to keep your attention, then it wouldn't be doing well. And so that's the catch-22, right? You want to reveal everything, you will. Things come, you will get there. But in doing so, it's like, okay, you do that, and now what? Okay, show's over, and then you lose out on that part of it, because I feel like this show, after pitching this and it getting its, planting its flag, I feel like this has kind of lit the wick of all of the everything we're seeing in news, everything we're seeing on in TV. All these people come out of the woodwork. This is really, Skinwalker was the spearhead of this. So it was great to know, like, the risk that we took in the beginning to pitch this really paid off. That this was it was as big as we thought it was going to be. And Brandon being the most confident of it always was just like, I just want total market domination. Like, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Total market domination. And that's, and here we are, we're getting to that point, and he's very, very open about that stuff. But it's, I kind of, when you see people take credit for stuff or try to claim, like, I started this, I started that, I'm like, okay, like, that's really funny. Like, Brandon had the means and the forethought to kind of do what he's doing. And then in tracking him down, it's like, what you're doing, a lot of people want to see. That all my initial calls to him, 3 a.m, whatever, all these calls were like trying to convince him that there are so many people that want to go on this journey with you, but don't have the resources to do it. And so you're acting as an avatar for them. People are just going to live vicariously through you, and you have the ability to take them on a journey that they would never otherwise experience. They just read the aftermath of it. You're giving them a week by week. Listen, I wish we could be filming all year round. But weather, budgets, things like that, like, you just can't.
Screen Actors Guild. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I mean.
No. We're not touching that.
Don't summon them, DJ.
Non-union. This is unscripted. We are unscripted.
Okay.
But knowing all this, like, I love that it's kind of set things off, and I wish I can't wait for more of the quote unquote compelling evidence to be shown. But when I see that, it's hard not to get excited about these things. But again, you don't want to jump to conclusions. There's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of them have to do with just kind of trying to maintain objectivity throughout the whole thing. Because yes, your brain, you immediately want to be like, oh my God, it's this. Oh my God, it's this, and you start saying those things, and you get into yourself in trouble. So.
Hey, TJ, I just want to say, as a guy who comes from an aerospace background, I found it quite compelling what I saw this year with the helicopter, with the radar altimeter, with the 1 gigahertz frequency that it was broadcasting, with what we were just talking about, that we're finding exotic compounds of metals inside the mesa is quite strange that you would find that. So, like you said, it's not necessarily indicative of, like you said, of aliens, but I think there's been quite compelling evidence, which is why I was texting you a lot. It wasn't for the theatrical aspect of it. It was for the actual what they discovered and the strides that they made.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I mean, those guys, they're, Eric Bard, awesome. Eric, and they're super open about it. Eric's less, both Eric and Travis they're pretty outspoken. Like, they say, they kind of talk. There's no, they keep what they have to under wraps. But for the most part, they're not trying to. There's no major revelations they're hiding. No one's talking to aliens. No one's doing. There's no super secretive whatever going on. So they. They're yes, there is super secretive stuff going on, but not in that way. Well, listen, no. That's just like anything, right? That's from a non-disclosure agreement on production side. That's a completely different thing. So, when people say, "Oh, I kind of go off on these little sidetrack things here, and with that, this idea of keeping the secrets, right? Because I feel like this is talked about a lot. There are talking heads, people who claim that they have non-disclosures and they can't reveal things, and I've always called BS on all of it. I've never heard anyone give me a good reason. Then there's someone like me who has non-disclosure agreements, and like the crew and the cast, who have very good reasons for that. And theirs are because if I talk, I no longer get paid. If I talk, I can be sued from a show. It has nothing to do with some figurative government non-agency that nobody knows of, or some men in black coming to my house. The reality is this is my livelihood. My family relies on this. I rely on this. This is not something that I'm willing to risk by saying things or, speaking out of school.
TJ, does that explain what happened to the cow? Did the cow have an NDA? And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know,
oh, there's so
many
jokes there that I can't touch right now.
Sorry.
Yes.
All right, let me.
There's so many memes that go with that. Yes, the cow knew. the cow. The cow has evidence that was going to put someone in prison, and then the cow died.
I knew it. I knew that, Nathan, and I think you and I, we may have even talked about this on private. But there's a lot of good questions in the chat. So Deb can pick out ones that she wants to put up there. And Money Nathan, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I want to come back to something that you mentioned on the show last time you were with us. And it was about a question I'd asked you about kind of what you think might be going on. And your response to that was really intriguing. And it's something that it stuck with me. You said something to the effect that it's kind of calibrating our ability to understand it, that it's influencing us in ways to better understand whatever it actually is. And I've noticed this on the show too, and this is partly just the way that productions work, that you're doing these certain experiments that you really intended to do, you do them, you reflect on whether they were successful or not, and then you refine them, you revisit some of them, you don't go back to some of the others. And so in many ways, the season, it raises these interesting questions of lines of inquiry, and then the follow-on season tries to pursue some of those lines of inquiry, and hopefully you get better and better information. So I want to come back to this idea, though. Is it do you think that we're on the trail of genuine discovery in terms of like how it's going to shape our understanding of reality or just the ranch itself, or are you seeing kind of a I can't think of a good phrase for it, like a creative impact where people just start riffing off of each other, and just it's just like a mad scientist laboratory where we're just kind of throwing all kinds of things out there.
Okay, so how can I answer this? So I don't think it's a mad scientist, but I understand what you're saying, the creativity building, and that's definitely happening. And I'm not even privy to all those. I'm not even in those brainstorming sessions or anything like that. Like, I no idea. But I know that happens. When I say the best way to describe what I'm seeing, what I'm understanding. So there's like a few schools of thought, right, that I think are the main narratives that people just bring up when they discuss this topic. Nuts and bolts, things from another world, flying a really far distance, traveling a far distance and getting here. Interdimensional is something that people talk about. And then there's the they were here way before us, right? So those are, and I'm not very well versed in the world of this, like the UFO legends and lore. I know bits and pieces, and just from research and talking with people about other locations and other theories and things like that. But I don't really have a lot of the historical stories, because that's all they are for the most part, stories. But what I see happening, and it may not. I'm trying to think of the best words to say it, where it's not like you're giving something away, but it's also like not a cop-out answer. But the answer is that revealing itself doesn't necessarily mean it's a thing, an entity, or some kind of intelligence revealing itself. So if you look at it like this is, so far, if you distilled everything that's happening on the ranch down to like last season, we had centers that were picking up atmospheric anomalies, right? boils it down to there's atmospheric anomalies happening at a certain altitude above the ranch that are repeatable, that we can study, and they produce all kinds of effects. Those atmospheric anomalies, whether they have always been there or not, we wouldn't know if they had never been studied before in this way. Mm-hmm. So if nothing else ever comes out of this, we go 50 seasons, nothing comes out of it other than, hey, we now know that a mile up, there's a different form of radiation or something happening that we've never studied before. That's a win. That pushes things forward. That can be applied. That's real science that can be applied and used in other contexts. Right. So the revealing itself, I think it's just going into this, I knew that the answers are here. It's the listening devices and the measuring devices aren't yet. Mm-hmm. And I think that the refining of the technology and finding out what works, what doesn't, which ones can you put together, which ones do you need to no longer use, which ones are hokey, which ones are real. Once that toolkit gets kind of whittled down to like real, like what the goes in that toolbox, I think what you were saying about the revealing, so to speak, will happen even quicker. And I know that these guys are so smart. I mean, there's, with Travis and Eric, they're getting to that point where I think you're going to see things, you're going to see like quantum leaps, like bigger jumps as we're going forward, because you're getting rid of what doesn't work is just as important as finding out what works.
That's right.
So, but yeah, I'm trying not to make it a cop-out answer, but I'm trying to like give you, my true thoughts on what it is without kind of, I can't speak for other people. What they're thinking or what their intentions are, but
well, it's nice to see that in that refinement process you're getting better information, right? That tells me that you're on the track of discovery, right? It'd be one thing if you were refining your methods and just still getting junk, but it seems like every season you're getting better reveals, basically.
Yep. I mean, and again, you have I don't know, the government guy. Right. That you have the guy guiding this. So, I always think like, I know he knows more than he's letting on. Like there's always that, I mean, he's just being real about it. Right. Not everyone just sits there and just, runs their mouths all the time. But there's a method behind all of these. There's gotta be, not just for television, because there's more to it than that. Mm-hmm. So
nice.
Hey, but before I pass it to Deb, I kind of want to get your reaction, and this is tangential to what Nathan just the question that he asked, and so this is more like a declaration. Get your reaction to it, but I don't know that the ranch, and this is also kind of fits with how you answered him. I'm not certain that the force that's at work here, that you can't, and this leads to you going another 10 seasons. Because I don't know that it can be revealed by scientific method as to its origin. I don't know that the forces at work there will allow it to get to a station in which it's revealed what that force is, and that if science even has a way to reveal what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to that spookiness, right? The spooky factor, the quantum spookiness. And I think there's something there that you just can't get an answer on, and I think it was even the idea of the contagion, right? Someone was calling spooky pox, which I think is brilliant. I think it's a super smart way. It sounds kind of like sounds comical, but it's not. It's like there's an actual backing into a science, like a science-like definition where it has been used in descriptions for for theories, for scientific theories. Like, I mean, just hearing the fact that Einstein uses this, like a spooky quantum mechanics or whatever he had called it. It's like, okay, well, it's in that realm now. So if you break down the word spooky and use that to define that as something that you can't explain yet,
unexplained,
something unexplained, not saying, oh, spooky is like, ha spooky, or ghost like spooky. No, we can't explain it yet. It's just, we're not there. And the quantum entanglement, that's still spooky, right? That's still, it's, for all we know, it's magic. I mean, it's, again, quote unquote magic. And so to hear that, I mean, I don't know how you get to that, right? How do you bridge that? We still haven't done it. Like, how do you bridge from that science to this unknown thing without just therefore aliens, right? Or therefore magic. how do you get there? Like, I don't know. But that's a great way to look at it. Like what you're saying, you know, it's, man, it's so frustrating. It really is. And I feel the frustration of everyone else in the community.
It's fun.
You know,
It's fun.
It is
it's
fun.
It's fun.
It is fun. There's a serious component to it, though. You know, there's things that happen. Again, they're spooky. You know, if you want to call that, I don't even know. Like that just it loses its word. You lose words to kind of describe these things. So
Deb, it's spooky.
Yeah, I'm thinking about UFO University and all the different topics we'd have to cover, including quantum physics and anthropology and science and religion, you know, and so on and so forth. But so the last
a dictionary for these things, a legit dictionary that doesn't go into the world of, you know, woo. Like
I can see us having a Professor Nathan.
Yeah,
I can just see it.
Much needed.
Instructor DJ. I can see it. Okay.
I just picture DJ would come in. It's like an 80s movie with a boombox he puts on the table. Puts a play.
Classes in session.
Right.
Some 80s flashback just went through my head. Okay. TJ, last time you were on our show, you were very gracious in explaining about your experiences, which I later spoke to you about because I found out there was a term for it called Frey effect, which seems to be connected to hearing sounds after maybe exposure to perhaps electromagnetic radiation. And I was just wondering, rather than have you rehash that, I was wondering if other people have come to you since the last time we've spoken, since you were sharing that information, if you've had other people come to you with similar experiences.
Yes, not exactly my experience. But yes, people with hearing things. I've people reach out to me pretty often. Well, they did right after that. I remember, not as much right now, not as frequently, but I still get people that talk about the hearing. You know, someone will like catch our old podcast or hear me discussing that, and then they'll reach out to me like, "Oh yes, I've had this happen as well." And you know, that's one of those, like when it had first happened. You know, your reactions are always like, you know, oh my God, these stories, everything's true. You know, it's like, it's all true. And then you start, once you get past that initial, you know, why am I hearing things, and start looking into it, you know, there's a lot of it's explainable. I mean, in my case, I believe it was explainable. But you know, when you're going through it and it's not, when you keep hearing things in your head, like, you know, I kept saying I hear music, and when I describe it to people, I would always say it's old timey music, whatever that means. You know, like, you know, I picture like an 1800s, you know, bar with a spittoon on the floor and somebody playing a piano and there's someone with an accordion. That's what I'm hearing in my head, right?
Deadwood.
What's that?
Deadwood.
Yes,
from
exactly.
HBO.
That's kind of the song, the stuff that I'm hearing, and I'm thinking like, okay, so if your ears ring a lot, you'll kind of put a pattern to it. And you'll kind of put something to that, and I think that's what was happening. Just like, you know, you look at a cloud and you see a face. It's pareidolia. And so it's the same, you know, there was an audio pareidolia. There was you know, there's other ways to explain it. And I think that was most likely what, you know, what was happening, or at least that's what I keep telling myself. So I'm going with that. But yeah, but there's people have talked to me about it, and I hadn't had anyone describe it as old timey music, but I have had people tell me that they'll hear other things like swooshing and, you know, I'm trying to think of any of the really interesting. No, there's not. I don't have anyone where some, you know, any examples of someone giving me something that was just like, what? I don't have any of those, but I just had a lot of people saying that they were having audio hallucinations as well, that I can remember. But yeah, I wish I had a much better answer for you than that.
Well, I'm just very interested in that aspect, the medical aspect. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Stuffs.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, it's a trend among experiencers. It's auditory illusion, and you know, it's the music is interesting for me to hear. That's definitely a first. But I've heard of buzzing, clicking. Some people believe it's some sort of a binary type code that they're receiving as a download. So, you know, you're among like-minded individuals that, you know, have also experienced it, and all of our heads are on straight. So we're you know, we're here, we're on Earth still. But yeah, it's definitely a trend. So, and that actually goes into my question, which since as the show's developing and you guys are going on to new seasons, since the ranch has experienced people, visitors, your crew have had these adverse reactions and such, have you amped up the safety protocol as far as what, you know, you're wearing as to measure, you know, the radiation that's being produced? Is there anything that you guys are doing to amp up as the show progresses?
So I'm not going to be able to speak to any specifics on that,
Sure.
but I can tell you, like, you'll see as the show goes on. But following any rules, any production protocols, yes, that has all been followed. COVID protocols. There's all kinds of you know, safety protocols now, even more so than there was when we started, just because of COVID. And you know, anytime something like that happens, you know, there are new regulations that get put into place because, you know, well, then someone can get certified in that, and then they can be forced to be on your crew, and then to make sure that you're complying. And so, yes, there's money to be made there. So of course, there's more regulations.
Right on.
But yeah, I'm not gonna be able to speak to any specifics. You just have to watch and find out as a reveal.
Oh, darn.
Right on.
Okay.
Will do.
Just keep in mind, yes, like everyone's very well aware, and there's, you know,
Sure.
It's no one's first rodeo.
Right.
So,
There's liabilities involved. You have to protect the crew and of course guests and all of that. So yeah, just kind of curious as to what you guys are using to measure that. So very cool.
TJ, I'm gonna make a comment about the spiral pictograph that John Dover spoke about, and how that indicates a portal in Native American culture to star people and so forth. And then the gentleman who came and read some of the pictographs that were on those petroglyphs out there said that the snakes also are guardians of the portal, which is really very interesting because it does lead into the larger phenomenon as we sort of focused on this show. So I'll ask you, is the ranch sort of a living metaphor for the entirety of the phenomenon itself, in your opinion?
Man, that's such a great question. So, okay, there's so many there's so many potential answers to that, like so many theories I could go into.
Give me the best one.
Before I say anything, I just read this, and it was an older article that I had come across today, about the portal. They're calling it a quote unquote portal between the Earth and the sun, the magnetic portal. And for people who think this is nonsense, just go and Google portal between Earth and sun that stays open for like 8 minutes. I think it is. It fluctuates. And this has been just kind of recently discovered. And I don't know if it's portal of like instantaneous data transfer, you know, anything like that, but they're defining it as a portal because it's almost like where the solar winds are able to kind of go unabated from the sun to the Earth. And I think that there's just so many perfect geographic anomalies at that place, at that ranch. Like there's just so many. I'd be surprised if it wasn't a portal, if it wasn't. And
right.
When you say portal, use it loosely, right? I mean, it's the way I'm defining portal is it's a place where you have some kind of anomalous magnetic ionization, whatever, insert science term here, thing converging and happening that doesn't happen everywhere else. I guess that was how I would define portal. I don't know, again, of it like opening gates to other dimensions. I don't know anything about any of that. Like I can't say that is, but if you're in tune with something that was able to be measured in the past, but we no longer know how to measure it, and we're getting closer to learning how to measure it, then that would make sense that Skinwalker, amongst other places, is that portal, is a space for that, because you're picking up things that are happening there that don't happen everywhere else. So I mean, if that's how I can define portal in a way that, you know, kind of keeps it in the realm away from the woo, but also in a way that makes sense and fits, and it fits all of the logic and fits all of the theories that people have. What we're measuring, who knows? But it's a portal of something. I mean, if portal is a convergence of things happening that we have not been able to measure yet, yeah, and it is. It's I don't know. Going there was, awesome, great experiences every time. Loved going out there, but I'll never go again. I'm all good. I'm all set to go. Maybe it's just I don't react well with this. Okay. When pitching this, the networks did not like the word portal. They didn't like the word vortex. They didn't like any of that. We had to cut it out of all of our pitch stuff. Any of the documents, any of the presentation reels, anything that we shot, we couldn't use those words. And now to hear you guys saying it, it's like we knew that it was going to be the accepted term, portal, but you didn't hear that on TV other than like shows where people.
Dr. Taylor.
Yeah. No.
Dr. Taylor said it.
No, prior. I'm talking about prior to the show.
Prior to the, yeah.
Like you didn't hear the word portal used without like portal, like a giggle, right? And that was what the network's interpretation of that was. Like you can't use those terms. And now it's been normalized, but I don't think it's been defined. And that's the problem where people still put that that like laugh about it in their head, but find a way to define it in a way that makes sense, in a way that can evolve to like, oh, yeah, I'm not saying that all of a sudden someone's just going to appear here. No, right now we're calling this is a portal. Oh, that can change. That can be defined as something else. Once we figure out, oh, you know what, that portal is really scientific term here. Now let's figure out what these other things we're measuring are. That this is what we're calling a portal. Well, okay, let's figure what that is. But I think there's something's happening out there that we just, we'll get to the bottom of it. Give us enough time. We'll get to the bottom of it. So.
The closest accepted term was porta potty, and those go all the way back to Woodstock.
Oh man,
and that would you would transfer them into a dimension where you can go to the bathroom, which is very helpful when you're in a crowd of 450,000.
I was there. I got Woodstock sickness.
Oh no!
Yes, I was there. I was a video game designer for Ubisoft at the time in '99, and I was in New York City.
What? Sorry, TJ, you were not there. There's only one, and it was in '69. Don't talk about that '99 stuff, my fellow New Yorker. Nathan, take it away. My goodness.
When you talk about when you bring up portal potties in Woodstock, you can't not talk about '99.
Yeah, it was a very real experience for him, DJ. Yeah, very, very, very real.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, TJ. I don't mean to take that away from you, brother.
No. Listen, it's one of the things that you wish you never did. Like if I could go back to, I could. No, you know what? Moving on.
It wasn't the number one Woodstock. It was the number two.
Nathan, what a great metaphor you just said. In so many ways.
It works on so many levels, like football to the groin. It works on so many levels.
It's incredible.
I just want to say granola was discovered at the first Woodstock in '69. That's a story unto itself. I'll tell you on private net, TJ. Go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, jeez, incredible. All right, so I'll take a slightly more serious turn from here. So you may be familiar recently. Bryce Zabel, who produced Dark Skies many years ago, he and Ross Coulthard have a podcast they do together, and they're doing like some video stuff as well. And they were kind of recounting a situation that Bryce experienced, or some of his, I don't know if they're producers' experience, but they had someone that arrived to a pre-show party or something, and started talking to them about how they had already seen the first episode of the show. And, to Bryce, this was a little bit strange because nobody had really seen the pilot yet. And this person had sort of talked about all this kind of stuff. And it was a mysterious person, let's put it that way. And then we've also heard a lot of talk about how the government has at least a little bit of relationship with Hollywood, right? Because of the way that, some movies, are shot on scene and certain government facilities, or they might loan some government equipment. Has anyone from the government ever connected with Skinwalker Ranch? I'm not talking about Travis Taylor, but has anyone consulted on the show or approached the show about a consultation? Or have you heard of anyone, not on this show, but other shows where they've had that kind of interaction with a government individual?
Can you tell me the first part of that story? You said somebody had an episode released?
Yes.
Nathan, You want me to get this out real quick?
Sure, go for it.
Basically, they were having a
Who's
party.
some of the people. So who's
Yeah.
the
Okay,
they?
Bryce Zabel's a
Zabel.
producer like yourself, and they're having a party, and they had not released the show yet. And a government individual turned up at the they were having like a pre-release party or end of the shoot, a rap party, and this guy turns up and says, "Oh yeah, I really like what you guys did." And he's like, "Well, how did you see it? We haven't shown anything to the public yet." And then he goes about it on a napkin and he starts sketching out the secrets of the universe or a piece of paper, and absolutely blew the minds of Bryce Zabel and the other his partner in the production. So I can send you that episode so you can hear it, but it's fascinating.
So that's not. Oh.
So have you had that sort of intervention in your production,
Or something similarly weird like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yes, we have. I'm familiar with that almost exact scenario. That's why I've never heard anybody say that to me before, because I've had that happen. Yeah. I don't know government though. See,
And that was a little bit shady. They weren't quite sure about that either, but it was someone that seemed to have knowledge of their production who otherwise shouldn't have had that knowledge.
Yeah, that would be that. I've had that happen to the point where, yeah, like it's caused problems. There's been problems caused from that exact thing around this topic that halted a project at one point. That caused problems on others. I don't know what it is. I don't know who it is or how, but it's happened. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that has happened to. My theory is it's always that because I try to put like logic, like without going into that realm, that somebody who works at one of the hosting companies that houses videos is watching and found some really cool stuff and decided to share it to some people. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. Like somebody goes behind firewalls and goes behind closed accounts and shares stuff. This is what I feel has happened. And whether it's malicious or not, whether it's just somebody like who finds something really cool and is like, oh my God, I got to share this. I don't know. But that's just interesting that I've never heard that it's happened to someone else before. Yeah. I mean, I've had an experience like that caused some issues. That's kind of crazy, actually. That
we've got to put you and Bryce, and we don't have a connection to Bryce. You've got to see this story, and it's not just that one, because in another meeting of some kind, I think 2 men showed up to his office, and they had indicated.
I've had this whole journey. Yeah, the beginning of this, we've had stuff where my neighbors would come out and take photos of these Sprinter vans parked in front of my house in a cul-de-sac that would just be sitting there empty for days. That no one would call. Like, I've had a lot of that happen, where I felt like we were being watched for a long time. Not just felt like, we knew we were being watched for a while. You're going back 2016, 2017 time, right before all this started. You start poking around and talking to people. People take notice. People they ask questions about what you were trying to do, and I think then when people find out what it is you're looking at, then people kind of like get interested in it. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to government men in black. I don't know, but there's other people like Brandon in the world that are also interested in this topic, that have resources to say, hey, what is this guy looking into? And no one's trying to hurt me. No one's trying to nothing like that. I mean, it's just uncomfortable to know that, there's things in front of your house. There's, why is my phone clicking? Then you get the paranoid, like, why is this happening? Yes. Okay. Is this something? Is it not something? I don't know. I haven't had any crazy, knock wood, negative effects or people knocking on my door or people showing up asking me questions to try and take me away or anything like that. So I got that going for me.
That's good.
To put into context, they were doing fiction, but their fiction was getting I think the second meeting Nathan was alluding to, they came and said, you're really close or you're right on the money on some of these, and a couple of these, if you massage it a little. So they were basically telling him that the fiction that they were producing was very close to real events. And the second part, I think between Nathan, Deb, Steph, and myself, if anybody could chime in, what was on that paper that he drew at the cocktail party?
It was we didn't actually see what it was, but it was some kind of formula. And when they asked this guy what it meant, he said something like the secret of the universe, sound, light, and frequency, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It was sound, light, and frequency, which is the same thing that we've heard some other interesting people mention.
And in fact, he said, take this napkin and come back and look at it, look at it again in, I don't know, 20 years or something. It was some weird, a lot of these weird elements around the meeting.
Symbols too, right? There were symbols on there
yeah.
that they think were on the side of, like, for example, that craft in Socorro that they had recorded what some of the symbols were that the police officer drew after that craft took off.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that kit. Yeah. I'm familiar
so
with that
anyway, it was some stuff like that along with these equations and blah blah.
Well, then I must be way off because nobody ever contacts me about that stuff.
We'll make sure you get that episode to hear it from Bryce's mouth.
It's pretty good.
Since he's sort of a colleague of yours.
I'd like to hear that. I just
okay.
And I use this, like, again, I always use these platforms. Like, if people have things, that's why I make myself so accessible. I think the next phase in all of this is a physical piece of something, some kind of physical evidence. Yet everybody and nobody has one. Everyone talks about them, but nobody has one to share. Anytime I've ever made strides in acquiring one or, finding a way to study one, I can't. I'm afraid. And it might, I get it, but a lot of times I'm just like, that's BS.
Right.
You don't have it. And sorry.
New York comes out, baby.
It does. The people who have secrets don't talk about it.
Right.
The ones who talk and pretend then say, I know things, they usually don't. Or I have secrets, they don't. And if they do, it's some TV guy like me who's like, hey, listen, it's my job. I'm not going to tell you what I know because I don't want to lose my job. But it's not like there's no, I'm not talking to, I'm not communicating with alien species or something. I'm trying to make television shows. And that's my business. What I'm doing, it's not, it's not helping anyone in the greater context of things. But I would love for some people to come, like, these are great stories. I like hearing them from credible people, like someone who has something to lose, like someone like a producer of something like that. That'd be great. But to have evidence of it would be even better. Like, enough of the talk. It's like we're at the point now. Put up or shut up. Like, let's see things. All
right, this is the last round, so Deb and Steph are going to get their chance.
Can I go?
We're going to get you out of here.
Go.
Really,
go ahead, yeah.
Really fast. Okay, because it just piggybacks right off of that.
Sure.
Well, I'm wondering if some of these symbols that were shown, and thank you, Deb, for being so gracious there. If some of these symbols that are shown correlate to these holographic images that are being displayed on these mesas, and if you guys are documenting these shapes, do they correlate to some sort of language? I would find that interesting to see if somebody's taking track of, these shapes. That could be a form of communication.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there.
I know.
Kind of like the crop circle. No, the crop circle definitions or the crop circle photos. And is there something there? I don't know. I feel like, again, collecting enough data, there will be a way to use, data science to run an algorithm on this to do something to kind of determine whether there is some kind of signal in that noise.
Right.
It's a matter of just collecting more. And on that, I'll really quick, like, there's an app right now what's the memo that after the Roswell crash, there was the guy kneeling down holding the memo in front of all the debris. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a famous picture.
Oh, we need
Deb?
Yeah, the one that they're trying to find out what it said, and they still haven't been able to completely decipher it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, whatever that Ramey memo, the Ramey memo, I think it's called Ramey, I think.
General
Mhm.
Ramey.
Anyway,
Oh, look.
Okay,
Got it.
The Black Vault Originals reminds us, yes, it was the Raimi memo.
Nice. The menu. I'll take number 7.
Sorry, memo.
So there are machine learning tools. And this is all open source stuff, and it's written in Python. All these things are written in Python, and there was one that was written by, I want to say it's is a European architecture or agency that does archaeology, and they created this machine learning algorithm that will decipher and read broken tablets and with only partial text, right? So you have a tablet and say part of it's cut off. They'd be able to read the part that still exists and then impute what the rest of it says based on that. I'm like, okay, so that right there, there's free tools. You have a data set. You have a problem to solve. This is the disappointing part. So this has been like 8 months I've been saying this until I'm going to eventually just do it myself if nobody else does it. But it's like I'm trying to I'm giving breadcrumbs for like months of people. Listen, if you want to do something and contribute to push this forward in a meaningful way, do that. Go watch some tutorials and do it. And you be the first to, oh my God, I decoded do that instead of talking about what you think it is or what you think it says or what it might. No, there's tools. And this is one of the big frustrations I have with this group of this community, a lot of talk, little do, go do things, it's, there's another one. Somebody please just go do it, right? Go do it. I'll talk to you. We'll figure out how to find a way to, get this into something. If I can do that, but I don't want to be the one to do it. I feel like this is not my wheelhouse, right? I don't have enough of the historical knowledge and enough of the, the domain expertise in that world. There are plenty of people who do, and they have passion, but I think it's just misguided. Use it for something that you can push forward. So on that, thanks for the segue on that, Deb. I appreciate that.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Go ahead, Deb.
Okay, so first of all, I just have to let you guys know this really good tip is in the chat about how to find out if someone's undercover. And Kurt M said, look at the tires, because they'll use a banged up vehicle and some fancy new tires on it. So it's a good tip. So okay, so I guess my question goes back to something that was said earlier about some of the players in this, and we know a lot of them have money, and one of them used to own Skinwalker Ranch, and recently it was revealed the possibility that he's not giving information to Brandon Fugel because he doesn't want people to be scared. Apparently, he told James Fox that he doesn't want people to be scared, and they did research and found people would be scared. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true that he's still not cooperative? And have you heard rumors of that?
Well, I've been trying to connect with him for 3 years, and he will not respond. So for someone else to say that they're communicating with him and he's giving he's the type of person that would say that and not need a mouthpiece to say that. So he's never one to shy away from publicity. And he's not one to shy away from saying controversial things. So I would love to see him saying that as opposed to somebody saying that he told me that and I'm using it. Let me hear it from his mouth. I mean, he said it on 60 Minutes. They're right under our noses. Why would he not say, go back on or he has a Twitter account. He has all the ability to say this stuff on his own. That again, these are the things that just they irk me. And it's if the gatekeeper of the information is the one that's profiting from the information, that's usually a problem, right? If you're saying I have a secret and I got I'm going to share it when I'm ready to share it. Okay, online, great. So, okay, well, the guy can just share it himself. What's he need you for? You're not doing anything else. You're just acting as a mouthpiece. It's not like you're the one doing the research and revealing it on your time. You're just relaying info. So why wouldn't he just relay it on his own? And if I can't reach him, if someone can reach him for a comment, great. Somebody else reach him and say, hey, Mr. B, is this what you said? Yes or no? Record him. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to do it. I just, I always get skeptical and maybe that's a game of telephone. Maybe that really didn't happen that way. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with I know who
I'm inclined to believe it, to be honest, TJ, because he made so many people sign NDAs, and it's very difficult to get information from him.
Yeah.
From like,
No, I know.
Hey, doggy, what's up?
Anger
Yeah.
the beast.
When that Air Force cop Chris Bartell said that he started off at the ranch with just 2 individuals, which, I mean, that's very marginal safety to be able to cover that kind of property with 2 individuals. And then he said that he was deploying up to the ranch by himself. Like, that is the most unsafe situation you could put somebody in. Like, that is so for me to Bigelow, that is a complete disregard for safety, for Chris Bartell's safety. He could have perished on that ranch and nobody would know it for quite a period of time.
I appreciate you. Please continue on that while this is still going on for a second.
No,
I agree with
all.
You 100%. I agree with you 100%. I think that's
very irresponsible.
I agree.
I hate to say this, but when you have an aerospace company, it does look awfully suspicious when you're also the person not revealing the information after years of study on the ranch.
Yeah, again, are these people, so the people that, and again, it's just my lack of knowledge, right? I just don't know all the ins and outs of all of these stories. But if the former employees there, and they are former employees, from what I understand, right? And they have NDAs, what are they, I'm not quite sure, like, unless he's paying them pensions, what's the fear of the NDA? What are these mysterious NDAs all the time? I don't know what the repercussions of those things could be. You know, you haven't been with a company in 10, 15 years. People have moved on with their lives. Things are happening. But you have some piece of information that you talked about 15 years ago that you could lose your job about, but you don't have the job anymore. So now what?
It's
what are you
civil
hoping over their
exposure.
head?
It's exposure to a civil lawsuit is probably what. But you know what? We'll try to get Chris Bartell on here and we can ask him about that. But I'm sure he probably thinks that he's exposed. If he did, I'm just assuming. I've never spoken with him, but I'll see if we can get him on here.
Yeah, I mean, I would love those answers, and it's just, I'm not calling people liars or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't know what it could be. It just seems like such an easy thing to hide behind. Like, I feel like that's always the reason why nobody talks. Like, oh, it's an NDA. Okay, I signed plenty of NDAs that after a certain period of time, it's not an NDA anymore. Like, the company that you signed it was dead and gone. You know, they've dissolved. So now what? I just feel like that's this strange, catch-all for all things related to this topic. It's very frustrating. And again, I've talked to literally hundreds, if not thousands of people over the years, like trying to find these, talent or find stories and ideas and potentials, or what I call them. And I hear this just too often, and no one ever has an answer for that. And that's why I'm always open about, like, here's my reasoning why I don't say anything, because this is my livelihood. Like, I have no intention of destroying that. But if you're not doing that, if you're just some guy online who, has a job that has nothing to do with any of this, but stuff because you're under an NDA from 15, 20 years ago, it just doesn't, the logic doesn't match. I don't know. I really don't know. I wish it's a source of frustration for me when in this realm in particular. So yeah, good times.
All right, brother.
Good time. I mean, it's one of those, like, you could just go in circles with this, right?
Right.
It's a constant thing that everyone just uses. I feel like Nathan gets that. Like, I feel like people see that this is what happens.
I do get it. It's just their individual situations, and it's hard to put a huge umbrella. Some guys have a government NDA, so you're exposed from a criminal perspective from the Justice Department, and then for a guy who, depending upon what the state laws are, and if there is some sort of a time of useful consciousness for this NDA, you could be civilly exposed in a civil proceeding, and I don't know that, so I can't.
But those are reasons, right? Those are legit things.
Right.
It's not just
Right.
like, I have an NDA, I can't talk. No,
Right.
like, you could say I have an NDA that exposes me to criminal liability if I speak about this. Hey, I would
Right.
respect that answer so much more than I have an NDA, I can't say anything.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
with whom you can, you can claim, oh yeah, I have one with this company, and I'm not allowed to talk about that because X, Y, Z.
I could claim
perfectly-
insanity legitimately and break that NDA.
Yeah,
But,
I've got an NDA with my wife sometimes. Some things I can't talk about. So
Well, hey,
you know how it goes.
You can talk about them.
Well, that's true.
But do you want to?
That's true, TJ.
No.
Good point. Good
Right?
point.
There's repercussions.
There are real repercussions. Yes.
Yeah.
You are so much fun. Let me get let Steph say her goodbyes. We'll go to.
Did I talk too much or have more? Do you have more questions?
That's fantastic.
Oh.
We always have questions.
we always have questions. We try to get people
a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to cut you off because I know that I have some long-winded answers and trying to explain things. I understand.
My question's like I have a lot of stuff that's really sort of ranch technical perspective, and I was going to ask you about getting your homeboy, if you will, from Utah, B. Fugel, so that we could hit him up on some of these issues. Do you think he would enjoy this venue?
I think so. Yeah,
We could send him a case of Diet Mountain Dew. Maybe that would help.
Yes, I would.
Put it in the rider. Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't think he needs to be bribed. But I mean, you guys have had, some pretty heavy hitters here. I don't see why he wouldn't be interested in doing this. I've been trying to reach him myself. I actually got to get hold of him this week again. Yeah, I mean, if I talk to him, I'll bring it up. I'll definitely float it by him. But I don't think he would say no.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to get into some technical business with him, and there might even be a can of my organic skincare formula in the mix there. So with Nathan,
Just to seal the deal.
If it helps, you can tell him I also love Terminator.
There you go. Right? What's not to love?
Right?
Nah, man, this is it's been awesome. You're so much fun, TJ. I mean, we don't really get to speak with people from television on here to get that perspective. I'm glad that you were open to bringing Sasquatch on the set. If you can reach one of them.
The Sasquatch stuff, man, it goes like the people that I've spoken to that have been in that world and hunted them and like, again, just show me one.
Right.
Show me one. Let's make
Mind blowing.
Show me one, for real.
Well, when you start there's even a woo aspect to them where they talk. This Texas detective talked about mind speak, something that he didn't think he thought was total BS, if you will. And then he went and met with a Native American woman and went in the forest behind her home, and was introduced to a family of them. And then he didn't think it was BS. Said it completely changed his perspective on the creature. Plus, him being able to emit certain sounds that can make you feel a certain way. They can they're pheromones. They can exude a smell that makes you smell something. So there's a lot of things about them that I was completely unaware of.
Again, to me, it's unfortunate. I'm so cynical with it. It's just, they're stories, right? It's all stories. I want some, like Steph was saying before, like there needs to be research. Like let's see things, let's track things. There has to be some data element to this that we can kind of, study more than just those stories. And they could have the utmost credibility, but at a certain point, you got to get it out of the realm of stories. That's why we need objects, we need data, we need something tangible. Otherwise, it's never going to progress. These topics won't ever progress past stories upon stories, and then it's all just debates about credibility. And it's unfortunate because next step has to happen at some point.
All I can tell you though is from an empath perspective is that when you listen to somebody, you've heard many people tell you stories. A lot of people trying to get on TV, all these sorts of things, and you're probably pretty good at assessing credibility. And when Nathan shared with me this podcast of first-person encounters, and you hear the terror in a person's voice, particularly hunters when they're hunting in an area where the Sasquatch also hunts for the same game that they're hunting. And this person who sounds like the type of hunters and fishermen that you'd be familiar with up in northern New York State that says, I peed my pants. People don't volunteer that. Right. And they don't break in the middle of their speech where they can't continue when they're lying. And so I found that very compelling. Not to say I felt or I could place myself in their spot. I can't do that, but I can feel real emotion and fake emotion.
Right. No, I don't think anyone's faking anything. I really believe, like, they believe these things. And I'm not saying that they don't happen, but if you want others to believe you, there has to be more than just words, right? There has to be, you can have the most convincing people in the world and they can make you feel like musicians. They can sing and they can make you feel emotion.
Make you feel emotion.
Yeah.
It just happens, but you need more. You need something if you really want to take it out of the realm of just a story. And listen, I've talked to, when I say that, like when you say like, yeah, there's hunters, right? I dozens of those people that there's no way they're lying. There's no way in my mind, but I can't, if you can't show me something, it's just the reality of it. It's unfortunate. It's just the reality of it.
That's fair.
You need some evidence.
Seeing
there should be something tangible to compare it to. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, and speaking of musicians also, I noticed on one of Brandon's posts that he had posted 9 Inch Nails had visited the ranch. And so I'm just wondering, is that some sort of a teaser to lead up to potentially testing music notes? I've had experiencers claim that they've heard the keynote of C. And if 9 Inch Nails is going to come onto the show and produce these sounds to see if there's a reaction, I mean, you guys are just like slam dunk. Oh, I love the answer. Perfect.
I mean, Smashing Pumpkins, maybe? I can hear.
Okay.
I
saw those images, though. They were great, right? It was great that,
yeah,
they're very cool.
Hey. He's not the first of those musicians. Like, Brandon knows what he's doing. Like, Brandon knows how to.
We'll get Kenny G out there with the saxophone.
I want to get him in there with Sasquatch, Nathan.
It'd be incredible.
No,
listen, like in all seriousness, it's like I have no knowledge of what that little what that was about. That's what's great about Brandon, though. He's very there are things he just does, and it's like, okay, that happened. All right, moving on.
And moving next, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that gives it a level of credibility. I appreciate that. I'd rather that than sharing something that he's teasing the audience in a way, but also leaving that credibility factor to holding true to your NDA. I think that's so important. So I respect that.
Look, if nothing else, Trent Reznor was at the ranch. He's a musician. I mean, it's not hard to kind of extrapolate, what musician wouldn't want to test these things? What musician would, in last season we did it with, we had a rabbi that was doing it, recording, playing, replaying. Like, there's tests happening. We're trying anything you can. So, exactly. No, I love this. I love these questions. This is all. I feel like Deb's been really quiet.
I'm just waiting because I'm enjoying.
That's when you have to worry, TJ, when she's quiet.
I've been trying to figure out how to ask this, but I know this could end up being like another long thing, and I don't want to do that. I just wanted to ask if there's any chance that in the future there will be another show about a place that might be called Marley Woods.
Really? Man, words get out. So look, it's now kind of the not secret that it's been tried for a couple of years now. I would hope so. I can say that I hope. But I don't have a crystal ball, right? It's not like it's pretty open. Like, Tom is out there talking about it. Not Winterton. I don't think people know Tom Ferrario. He's out there talking about the place all the time. And I've been great. I've been in communication with Tom for a few years now. So, if I can make that happen, I would like to make it happen. Maybe I can leave it at that. Like, I fingers crossed, right?
Well, you know what? Next time I interview him, which is coming up for a part 2, you're welcome to come, TJ, because he thinks you're his buddy.
Yes, I love Tom. He's great. Listen, Tom's a good guy. Like, he has the thing that Tom has that nobody else that's still alive has, is a direct line to Project Blue Book. Direct Line. Worked with Ted Phillips. Ted Phillips worked with Hynek. Hynek was Blue Book. There's a legit, not just the interesting aspect of Marley Woods and what Tom has been doing his whole life with all of his studies, but there's a paper trail there. There's an actual lineage that has not been explored yet. So it's all been stories on stories on stories of, Hynek and Blue Book and secretive. Well, here's a guy who was with the guy. Like, the man sitting next to the man. Like, legitimately.
Yes,
I feel like we're breeding a Cocker Spaniel. All of a sudden, we're talking bloodlines and pedigree.
I have to say, though, that people don't look back enough, and they should, because Hynek was talking about hitchhiker effect years before anyone. Before Keel spoke about it, he called it poltergeist activity. And I feel like people should be paying attention to the history.
Yeah, they should. Problem is, it's stories, right? And so, like, the idea of something tangible, if I have a guy who I can trace back to that directly with evidence that shows that he was there, that shows, that was happening, like, that's different than a story of someone who drew a picture 50 years ago, or someone who, an interview of somebody who saw something. No, this is someone that was their job. It's just something I feel has been left out. Like this, nobody cares about the meat and potatoes anymore. Everyone's just looking for the shiny box. So, again, unfortunately, but there's no outlets. So if I can get that one through, I'm that amongst other places, there's plenty of these places. I would love to have shows on every one of these locations.
I will say thank you to Skinwalker Ranch for inspiring those places to pronounce to the world, we too have activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they're coming out, and again, I send them to me. Places, people that are interested, please. Any of your audience, again, like, reach out. I'm very accessible. Sometimes it takes me a while to get back, but I'm more than happy. I try to interact with everyone I can, just for these reasons. And it doesn't just have to be on, the stuff that we know of here. There's plenty of places I don't know, that educate me, like, send them my way. What's next? What don't I know? What am I missing? What is nobody talking about in this realm? That's not, just arguing over who's right and who's wrong and who put an eye on top of a, memo somewhere, and if you look at it in the mirror backwards, it says, no, like, give me something.
TJ, this whole missing 411 business, have you seen those on Amazon Prime?
I'll tell you, I've seen more. I've seen that, and I've even pitched. When I pitched an exec that 2 years ago, that concept of the correlation between Bigfoot and missing people, they were shocked. Discovery was shocked. Now the problem is, if you want to look at it realistically, right now, this is no woo, right? Only things we know. This is where it gets really, really frightening. Because what is more plausible that a creature, a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch that's 7-8 feet tall, hundreds of pounds, mystical, lives forever, whatever it is, right? Whatever the legend and lore is it more probable that it's that's abducting or killing people, or that it's some people dressed like that are nuts and doing that?
That's less plausible from what the sightings in 49 of 50 states would indicate, except for Hawaii. So,
then if we had evidence,
including my state,
if we had evidence of those creatures doing it, right? A dead creature, if we had a creature. But we do have crazy people who do things like that. And so when you say that, like, when you look at it, when you go to law enforcement and you say, okay, their first thing is going to be like, well, you got to prove it's not. Like, how do you know it's not that?
I recommend watching it, TJ, because I don't feel like
I know about it. It's very compelling. I mean, it's amazing.
Politi says that the national parks are not keeping statistics. He says, and in the case of missing persons, like one of your New York brothers, like Tom Messick from HorrorCon, New York, who came up missing, and all of a sudden the FBI turned up, and they said the FBI only shows up for non-children in one instance, and that's if the local law enforcement calls them in. But they did turn up. And why did they turn up? for that investigation. So I think there's some meat on the bone there.
I
Personally.
agree. It's just that I'm scared, when I pitch it, all you can do is their response, it's like, and the part of it that's really terrible, and I say this a lot when I talk to people that I'm trying to, get information out of, it's like I'm going to have these relationships with so many people, 3 months, 6 months, a year, as we go on this journey to make a show. A lot of times it doesn't happen, more times than not, right? It doesn't happen. It's not personal. It's nothing to do with them. They're great people. But at a certain point, like the amount of time you spend in communicating and talking with them about a topic or about, themselves, what they do, you have to pivot eventually. Like your job is to find these things, to find more. And if you take them as far as you can, good luck. I hope you have success. Maybe it's somebody else that can help you, but it's like, I go through all of the channels I can. I pitch to every network that I can. And if the answer is no, it's like, okay, so I have to move on. Right. And same with that. Like, I think it's a fascinating story. I don't know where to get traction with it. I've tried.
I'm not even. I don't even know that it's necessarily Sasquatch that's the culprit in these missing cases. But what Paulides points out is the conditions that bring about someone to go missing in these national parks. And there's a weather anomaly associated. It's late in the afternoon. There's all these sorts of things that if you haven't seen Missing 411: The Hunted on Amazon Prime for free, I highly recommend it. Don't know Paulides at all, but it's very, very well done. And he never does state in that documentary at all a hypothesis as to where he thinks they're going. And I think that's how it should stay, because I don't know that you could attribute that much as, and I don't know what Nathan's feeling is on this. And Nathan, I'm going to just pass it to you. As much as we've sort of researched Sasquatch over the last month or so, I don't know that that's the culprit in all of those. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, the stories are fascinating, right? I mean, and there's so many of them. So, that's, in some ways, there's a strong parallel to the UFO stuff because there's so many of them. And at some point, the cumulative effect of all the stories, you take it a lot more seriously. But TJ, I'm right there with you. Like, we need better data, more data. We're going to need that, right? I think that this is kind of the conundrum in some ways. Like, the mystery is part of what makes it a good story, right? So the fact that there might not be all of these answers, that it's really difficult to study, that there's a little bit of an information gap that exists, like that kind of lends to the exciting aspects of why people want to watch, right? So shows benefit in some ways from that degree of mystery, right? That kind of keeps people coming back, and then they put in their own theories and it keeps people coming back. So, I mean, many ways that the UFO topic is like that too, right? So we substitute data with our imaginations, and our imaginations are really good. Like, we're really good at filling in the gaps and coming up with all these stories. And if you're good at entertainment, you can utilize that to your advantage. And if you're good at, kind of narrative control, you can utilize that to your advantage as well. So I guess what I'm really kind of curious about, well, first of all, what did I want to say to you personally is I really appreciate your authenticity. You go out of your way, like above and beyond, to connect with people. You make yourself really accessible. I know that's not easy to do. You've got a family, you've got a lot going on. And the fact that you're engaging with folks and, listening to folks' stories and just being a curious person, like that's not easy to come by. You don't run into people who are like that all the time, particularly in your industry. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I know it can be probably tiring, and sometimes you get assaulted because you're just being a curious guy, putting your neck out there. But I really appreciate it. I want to say thanks for that.
Sure. No, I'm glad I can.
But so I guess the last question I would ask is, we're entering this phase where potentially we have this convergence, right? We have a convergence of a government that may officially be coming forward with some actual data, more data. There's a lot of debate as to how much that we might get. And then we have a lot of shows. I would say Skinwalker Ranch is doing it really well, but there are other shows that have long existed in this vacuum, this information vacuum, that have capitalized on the mystery and the mystique. So we have these kinds of things that are potentially converging where, you know, the light of data may actually extinguish some of the shadow of mystery, and it's going to be an interesting space. I mean, how do you think about that potential sort of eventuality? You know,
So this is what I want to capitalize on with something like Tom and Marley. You're bringing the history, the real history, and you're kind of showcasing the stories of what we used to have. And then you're going to apply the modern technology and the modern methods to it, and examining that, like taking a real look at that through that through line. You know, that was what I think has to happen. There has to be a bridge. There isn't a bridge, right? And I love that. That's a great way to put it. You know, the data is extinguishing the flames of these stories. Like, there's so much of it that's just bunk. There really is. They're great stories. Right. They really are. But they're not provable. Like, I think it's time to move on. And that was one of my frustrations earlier that I said about people who are quote unquote experts because they know all these stories. Okay, great. That doesn't, it's not useful. Everybody knows all these stories. And you're probably regurgitating the same stuff that some other person said on the YouTube channel somewhere. Like, that's not interesting to me. What you're saying is, like, when you have the advent of this, something has to give. And this is why I keep saying it has to be a piece of evidence. Personally, I'm in the camp of they're never going to get anything from the government. It'll never work that way. It's going to be a private individual that's going to have what someone referred to as FU money, like someone who doesn't care. You have somebody like a Brandon. There's plenty of others.
Like a Brandon.
There's plenty of others.
You can't spell Fugle without FU. That's what I understand.
Did you just come up
first
with
we get
that?
Yeah.
First we get Roosevelt, and then
it came to me as you said that. So.
I gotta tell him that's brilliant.
Increase his share of the 401k.
That's genius. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's the type of the renegade, whatever you want to call it, that's going to make these things happen. There's no scenario in which I can see the government saying, "Hey, guess what? Blah blah blah." No, there's a cost.
It's not happening
ever. There's a cost to that information. It could be, but hey, there's aliens, and now no one can leave their house for 8 months.
Right.
There's going to be a trade-off there.
Yes,
like
too consequential. Paper. Yeah,
exactly. There's a cost to that information. But you're right on. But it's going to be I don't think the government's going to do it. I think it's going to be used as a hot potato, kind of like during election time. And you saw it try to play out last summer, where it's like one side of the aisle tries to plant their flag in it, and the other side calls it conspiracy, and then vice versa. And the news networks are trying to dig in and make it their issue, and catch. And all it did was, hey, let's increase the budget for Black ops programs or whatever it is, like Black budget programs. And now the budget's astronomical. It's like mission accomplished. Like, they did what they set out to do, get more money. I just don't see it kind of ever coming from them. But I think that there's more of these private people are gonna, and regular citizen scientists. Like, I think that's the way that it's gonna happen. I'd love to. I still want to find somebody who's building a rocket in their yard. I want to find somebody who's like, that's what I'm looking for. There's got to be people out there that are doing things like this. So,
Bob Lazar. I'm just kidding.
Well.
Deb's got something for you.
What's up?
Deb?
Deb on mute, I think.
Oh, sorry, Deb. Let me Yeah, I was trying to figure out who was the dog one. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna let you know that Cheryl Costa is one of those people on her own dime, along with her partner, created a desk reference and is very interested in finding someone in TV who wants to take a look. She combined all the data from MUFON and NUFORC for like the last 20 years and found patterns and some of the true information about what's going on. So I just wanted to chime in about that because Cheryl's interested in those, and I can forward you some stuff.
Yeah.
So, and also, yeah, that's reference, by the way, was mentioned on Mystery Wire by George Knapp. So it's been around for a while. It's got a following. But yeah, I just wanted to express my appreciation. We all really appreciate that you are accessible, like Nathan said, and that you are also really passionate about this, but in a level-headed way. You know, and you're taking a reasonable approach to it, and I think it's a good look for the community. I think more people should be doing that. So thank you very much for coming and speaking to us today.
Sure. No, thank you for having me. I mean, I love doing this. Again, it's all, yes, there's other interest, but it's I wish I could hide behind I'm doing this because it's no. This is unfortunately, this is a job, right? Like this is your career, and I try to be honest about that so people understand I'm not jumping on any bandwagons of anything. Like I'm not jumping at the next, trying to get behind something. I have a goal. My goal is I want to amplify and give more coverage to something that is credible. Something that when I find something that's really great, I can help amplify that. I can help get it in front of the right people to make something happen. I provide access. Like I'm a conduit in a lot of ways. But people don't, there's no other, or I have not encountered any other television producers, executive producers for that matter, that I know that are out there doing this, that are trying to find this stuff. And that's kind of discerning to me. It's like, okay, so I'm in that world somewhat, right? Enough where people know enough in this community who I am that, hey, just reach out to this guy. You're trying to do something on TV, reach out to TJ, get a hold of him. I'm more than happy to talk to you. I don't know anybody else that's kind of doing that. There's some filmmakers and stuff, but that's different. That's a whole different animal. So, I know what I know, right? I know television, and I want to help people that have like legit stuff. Like let's try to let's really try to push it forward. But I can't. It's hard to find them. That's why this is this type of stuff. Reach out to me, please. Feel free. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to call you names or say that you're full of it. No, I want to hear what you have to say. If I can help you, I will. So, but thank you, Deb. I appreciate that.
Steph, you want to say goodbye to TJ?
Yes, thanks. It was super awesome listening to your views on this, and I appreciate the way you guys are treating this project with respect and data-driven analysis, because it's not just a show. I think that this is information for people to learn from, and the age range that you described earlier also shows me that young kids are listening in on this while their parents are watching. So you have this wide range of people who are interested in the topic, and I will tell you, probably some of those people haven't been experiencers or haven't been open to this idea or this subject. So it just does give me some confidence that the subject is being treated with some dignity and respect. So and it's promising. So thank you for that.
No, of course. That's not my dog, by the way. It's not me.
You guys, I'm sorry, it's my pup. She was at the vet earlier today. My bad. She's making her debut now. Right. Sorry.
Nathan, any parting shots?
I won't take any shots at TJ. I know better than that. But again, I appreciate it, TJ. Thanks so much. This has been a real pleasure, and we haven't had a lot of guests who've come back, so we're huge fans of you and what you're doing, and just really honored that you'd spend time with us this evening and extra time at that. I did send you a DM with the Bryce Zabel talk that we talked about earlier, so you can check that and see that Mystery Man episode or whatever that we discussed, which I'd love to get your thoughts on. And separately, maybe for another time, I have my own show idea I'd like to pitch you. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm all ears. Cool. Anytime.
Can I get it? Amen. Thank you to Miss Julie in the chat for keeping things running there for us. We have needed a chat moderator forever, and finally we got one. Thank you, Miss Julie. TJ, I mean, Nathan had some great questions tonight amongst Deb and Steph, but to me, I mean, didn't the Woodstock porta potty comment, I mean, have you had anything better come your way than that? I'm
having flashbacks, man. I'm having flashbacks. And they're not good flashbacks or flushbacks, I should say. Pretty awful.
It was an absolute blast, and it's a really unique, cool opportunity that I get to text with you and ask you stuff or say hello, and you're always gracious with your time and answer me. And we would like to talk to your brother, my man from Utah, Mr. B. Fugel.
Tell him about the FU thing. That's hilarious.
He can't spell Fugel without FU. That was, I mean, I don't know. If I go over the last 3 months of the show, that's probably the best line that we've had.
But it's in a good way. It's not in a negative. That's not a negative, right? That's
totally positive.
I think that's a great.
I agree. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Phenomenal.
The name of Nathan's new pho restaurant in Asheville, North Carolina. Phenomenal. All right, so no, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on, TJ, and we look forward to doing it in the future.
Yes, anytime. You know I'm always around, so I appreciate it, everyone. Thank you all so much. And
for Steph, for Deb, yes, we will do it again, brother. For Steph, for Deb, for Nathan, and for the executive producer of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, TJ Allard. This is DJ saying peace out, one love, and we'll see you down the road. We're always wondering what's up around the bend.